I offer my humble pranams at the divine love and lotus feet of our beloved Bhagwan. Sisters and brothers, Sairam. We are very, very fortunate at this point in time in the Sai organization to have with us someone who is no stranger to all of us, joining with us, guiding us, and interacting with us over the few days he's been here. Our own brother, Phil Gosselin. Sisters and brothers, Phil had, in talking to me a while ago, indicated that he had found Swami in 1969 in the Newsweek articles, and he spent a year in Prashanti Nilayam, 1971 to 1972. And then, as if it was not enough, he spent another year, 1974 to 1975. So sisters and brothers, you see how that divine magnet attracts us. Our brother Phil is a member of the United States Council, announced by Swami at the 1975 World Conference. He founded the Manhattan Sai Center and other centers in the Northeast. He's been president of the U.S. Sai Council, and he is, as we know, a central coordinator for the United States, and now zone coordinator since October 2011. He worked on Wall Street for 12 years, so I hope that he was able to control those guys with their spendthrift attitudes in Wall Street. And he is now a psychologist residing in Amherst, Massachusetts, USA. And sisters and brothers, I take this privilege and opportunity to invite our brother Phil Gosselin to address us.
To all of you. Sairam. Sairam. It's a beautiful Sunday morning in Trinidad. Perhaps you take it for granted, but for me this is a great thrill. First of all, it's beautiful out in a way that we don't see in a February in Massachusetts. There's a big snowstorm happening right now, and so I'm very, very happy to be here. But I'm also happy not just for the external world, but with the internal world. Sharing it with you, sharing satsang with you, and I've had the great good fortune to meet with many of you individually, and I'm sort of trying to become part of the Trinidad family. The young adults gave me this t-shirt that says, I have Trini blood in me. So I'm working on it, I'm working on it. I can feel it coursing through a little bit. And I've had the good fortune to also travel to Guyana this last week, so it's a question of, you know, with Swami the whole world becomes part of us. It's no longer we're defined by our particular little family identity or national identity. The whole world, the whole universe becomes part of it. And actually I'm looking here at Mr. Chandru, who just came from Curacao. And he traveled a lot farther than I did. He was sort of crisscrossing North American continent to get here to be with you here today. So you have Sai brothers and sisters around the world, and they send their love. I take the liberty of sending that love from all the devotees in North America. And my purview in terms of zone coordinator has to do with the English-speaking countries in the Western Hemisphere, and also, as it turns out, the Dutch-speaking countries in the Western Hemisphere, and also Israel for geopolitical reasons. But it's quite a blessing for me because it gives me the chance to see a variety of different people and different cultures and how they express their love for Swami and how Swami expresses his love for them. So it's obviously a back and forth. There's a Swami says, I see you, and you see him, and you see them in the next person, and the next person, and Swami sees all. It's all happening at once with our dear Swami. So, we're in this situation now where Swami is not in form, but of course there's all of the pictures and videos and whatever. If you want to piece together that love for the form, there's more than enough for you to do so. So there's no shortage. People sometimes are drawn in by the great Maya, which is, if there's no body, there's no body. We realize, when we go deep, we realize this is not true. And I like to say that Swami says, now that I have no body, just watch what I can do. Just as Shirdi Sai was known by a few thousand, perhaps, when he passed away, now is known by hundreds of millions. This Swami was known by perhaps hundreds of millions when he was alive, and will be known by billions. And Prema Sai, it all expands, expands, expands. So expansion is Swami's life, and expansion is our life. Just as someone was singing the bhajan today, expansion is my life. So how do we expand our life? So first there's ourselves, sort of our baby self. Then there's our family self. Then there's our school self, our community self, our professional self, our town self, our country, our hemisphere, our world, and beyond. We have an expanding identity. We can become constricted by our identity. Oh, I'm such and such. We sort of constrict. Oh, this identity is not so good, or it should be better, or it should be different, or my identities aren't really great. You know, like these are all constricted identities. They don't really work for us. They're just temporary games, and it can be kind of amusing. We can enjoy these shifting identities. You know how like little kids will have their photographs taken, you know, with sort of like a historical figure, and there's a cutout where you stick your head in? Our life is like that. You know, we've been given this sort of cutout in which we get to stick our head in. But it's just temporary, and it should be just enjoyable, not taken too seriously. You know, you have the photo taken. Oh, this is me. Oh, Swami gave me this life, and he gave me this situation. And it's a changing, ever-changing situation. Sometimes we have it easy. Oh, this is life. This is just sort of cruising along. Or, oh, I didn't expect it would be so hard or so difficult. And for Swami, he's most likely to give us both. And I like to share the Swami as the Indian dhobi. Perhaps I've told this story many times. You've heard it. The Swami says, I'm like the Indian dhobi. You know, the old dhobi that used to hit the clothes on the rock. You used to see that in Putta Party. You'd stand on the hill above. You could see all the way to the Chitravati because it was so far away. It was so magical. You could, the time it took the sound to travel to you, there was sort of a delay. So you'd see the hit, and then you'd hear karak, you know, come across the valley. But Swami said, I'm like the Indian dhobi. This is how he works with his devotees. I lift them way high. I lift them way, way high. And then I bring them down hard. And then I lift them way, way high, and I bring them down hard. And I do this repeatedly until they're clean. And then I hang them out to dry. And that's our situation. That's our situation. We can protest along the way and say, oh, you know, I love this part, Swami. I'm not so crazy about this part, though. You know, Swami, why don't you just keep doing this part? And we'll just forget about this part over here. It seems logical. You know, oh, Swami, you lifted me so high. Let me stay up here. Let me be with you. Let me be with you. No, Swami has another agenda. It has to do with transformation. It has to do with transformation. We're not so keen on transformation. You know the old story of Vishnu, who, for some mission, incarnates as a pig. And he, whatever, accomplishes that mission. But then he gets engrossed in his pig life. And the other gods are quite disturbed, and they come down to see him. And they say, please, this is ridiculous. You're the god Vishnu, and you're rolling around in the mud, you know, as a pig. And Vishnu, who's gotten entrapped in his own Maya, says, I'm a pig, and I'm happy. Leave me alone. Eventually, the other gods were so disgusted they had to kill the pig, and then godhood emerged. Well, it's a little bit like our situation. So there can be a few beatings along the way. It's for our own good. It seems bad, but it's good. Swami said, first you give the divine life, the sadhana, and all that comes with it. First it tastes kind of bitter, but later it tastes so sweet. Just the opposite of this world. This world in the beginning tastes very sweet. Later it's bitter. You realize, ooh, it's got sort of an afterbite to it that's really kind of distasteful. So this spiritual life is an acquired taste. And Swami has sort of rocketed us through this acquired taste part by giving us various boons, by spending time with us, by incarnating to interact with us. Very, very lucky, very, very fortunate. It takes other people so long to come to that feeling of intimate closeness with the Lord in whatever form. But Swami has just put us on the express train. He says, oh, you have some slight interest in being with God, or you have some slight interest in knowing about God, or you have some slight interest in what would it be like if God were on the earth. Okay, I'll give you that. I was teasing a little bit last talk. I was telling about the photographer who was with Swami, and he's massaging Swami's feet. And he's got the great boon. He's massaging Swami's feet, you know, for long periods of time. And so he's thinking, well, he's massaging Swami's feet. He's thinking, if this is a great opportunity, I can ask Swami for a mantra, you know? So he asks Swami for a mantra, and Swami says, this is ridiculous. You're asking for a mantra. Right now you have the opportunity of massaging the feet of the Lord. And you're asking for a mantra that other people have asked for so that they would get the boon of massaging the feet of the Lord. So desire never quits, and it can be circular. Even when we've already got, we sometimes think, oh, I've already got everything. No, I want this one other thing. And I'd like to tell this story when my son was young, 5-ish or so, and you know the custom of writing the Om on a chalkboard. And so parents often come to Swami, and in those days we're trying to get him to draw an Om on the chalkboard as sort of symbol of the first writing that a child should do. And we were quite entranced by that. So we took all the opportunity that we could. And Swami being Swami, you know, he waits to the very last minute, and there are all of these ups and downs, and it looks very good, then it looks very bad, you're not going to get, and then at the last minute something may happen and you're not sure, and you're thinking about Swami all the time, about your particular desire, and if only I get this, I'm going to be happy, you know, oh Swami, please, 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 please. Boom, it happens. Very last, I believe, last darshan we're there, Swami comes, he draws the Om on the chalkboard, and I'm on the men's side, my wife's with my son on the ladies' side, and I see the whole thing there, and she's happy and she's beaming, and I'm happy and I'm beaming, and we're both looking at Swami and we're feeling we had this desire and he fulfilled our desire, and suddenly our mind stops for that one second. Suddenly we're not quite on the next desire yet. There's a momentary little micro lapse where desire quits for a micro moment. Now, we think we're happy that moment. What really happened was the desire quit for a moment. There's just like a little micro moment, no more desire. Oh, next moment, oh, I'd really like an ice cream now. Then desire pops back, oh, not so happy again. So that happiness is when the desire sort of subsides for a moment, the natural happiness pops out. So at that moment, we were sort of feeling the happiness rising and looking at Swami. Then the moment subsides, and my wife looks down at my son, and he's busy erasing the Om. She says, what are you doing? Why are you, oh, this terrible thing? And he sort of chirps up. He says, I wanted him to make me a bird. So, everyone has their own desire agenda, you know, and desire never quits. It just keeps on going. As Swami said in that Satyasai Chants the Bhajans, the record that came out in 1969, and Kasturi is reading from excerpts of Swami's sayings. He said, Swami's saying, desire will not leave hold of you until you are dead. In other words, desire never quits unless you quit desire. You think, okay, I get the following things. You know, I get a family, I get my career, I get this, and my kids do well. And Swami teases, he says, okay, people are praying to him. The first prayer is, oh Swami, I'm ready, I throw myself at your feet, whatever you decide. Then the next moment they're praying, let me live until my grandchildren are married. So it goes on, and even if you get that boon, then there's the next one after that. It goes on and on and on. So it's very, on one level, it's very, very funny. And I'm sure he sees the humor of it, and occasionally we can see the humor of it. But on the other hand, it's kind of horrifying. You know, that we're on this treadmill, this sort of unconscious treadmill. And so our job makes it sound like too much work, but our joy, our intensity, our sadhana is to step back from that treadmill. What would it be like if I don't have that desire right at this moment? What would it be like? You know, could I be peaceful just as I am at this moment? Someone was saying the now should be emphasized. This is the now, the now, the now. So I had the chance to speak to Mr. Brahmachari this morning, and he was suggesting that we meld in the experience of Swami along with the abstract. And I was agreeing. I was saying, yes, yes, this makes a lot of sense. So with the speeches, there should be mixed in the love. And we can talk abstractly about love. You know, love is God. Love is everything. Love is what we're about. Love is our goal. And at the same time, then we mix in perhaps someone who's had experience. I see you have Mother Teresa on the wall there. Someone who experiences that love. And we have some experiences with Swami. We mix some of that in. So there's the personal and the abstract. And the two sort of oscillate between each other. That seems to work out best. Swami says when he gives a speech, it's like a mixture. You know, the old Indian medical mixture, you get this mixture, they'd sort of mix it up at the pharmacy and things like that. You'd wonder what the heck was in it, and they're mixing it up for you. He says his speeches are like a mixture. He'll be speaking to this person, and it's a certain metaphor or a certain aspect that, you know, this person thinks, ooh, that's really particularly for me. Then he'll be speaking in a metaphor about this kind of career over here, or about this family situation over here. And it's all, you know, Swami, no notes. He doesn't need any notes because he knows us all. And so he's just sort of drawing from the group. And he sort of says whatever basically he wants. He wants to make a point. He'll look at you and he'll say this. And you'll think, ooh, why was he looking at me? And he may have a point in mind, but actually he's talking about this person right over here. And then over here, this person realizes the next thing he said is for me. And then meanwhile, all this is going on, he's setting down a number of things which people will read for centuries from now, will have particular meaning for people. So this is, of course, one of the extraordinary things about Swami. When we're experiencing the external Swami, we're sort of noticing how can Swami be with, you know, let's say 500 people that day. And, you know, he's with them maybe individually or whatever. And they each sense that they have some kind of particular relationship with Swami. So 500 people, that's more than anyone can do. How can he do that? But that's just obviously the micro tip of the iceberg. Because then there are all of the people in Trinidad. There are all of the people in New Zealand. There are all the people in Norway. Whatever it is, no corner of the earth is left untouched by Swami. And I was very moved by a recent, or an interview that was recently told to me, and I'd like to tell this one. And particularly if I'm traveling around, it's a way of reminding myself. Swami, in answering someone about what direction their altar should face, he said,
North, south, east, and west are all man-made. In space, there is no such thing. Even space comes from God. Then he starts talking about himself. He says, I am not bound by time or space. I am omniscient. And I think this is very important for all of us. Before you call me, I am there. He's already there. He's the resident. He was there before you showed up on the scene. You know, you think, okay, I'm here in this place. There's some way I can bring Swami here. You know, if only we could bring Swami here. In the old days, we were hoping that Swami would play, okay, I'll come and visit your house. I'll do a world tour and I'll come and visit you. Oh, I think, oh, that's so wonderful. Or he'll come into our native place and, you know, at last everyone will see what we're so excited about. The world will be transformed. And, the desire would go way up. And Swami would play with that. But the real truth of the matter is, he was there long before you showed up. Long before you showed up. We're just temporary. He's eternal. And of course, when we move ourselves to our Swami nature, then we're eternal also. We're eternal. So along the way, he plays with us because we're thinking, he's there and I'm here. He's there and I'm here. So I was telling a dream that sort of played with that kind of concept. I was in upstate New York at the time. I had a dream. My son was about 6 or so, and he was first grader, and it was a very small little private school, and some of the 6th graders, he knew some of the other students. So in the dream, Swami comes to me, and he says, amongst various things, he says, your son wants a gold chain. Have him ask me for it. So in the dream, I think, oh, well, I'm in Puttaparthi, and so my family must be outside, and so I'll ask them to come, you know, to the next darshan or whatever, and maybe they can ask Swami. So he looks at me, you know, he just looks at me very direct. He's like, without saying it, he says, no, have him ask me by post. And the unsaid message was, you think you're in Puttaparthi. You know, I know where you are. And this is a message that this is one of these real live wire dreams, the real message. So anyway, so I woke up in the morning and I thought, oh, well, this is very, very wonderful. So I tell my son, I told him the dream, and he said, how did Swami know? He hadn't told anyone about this desire. So I had him write a little letter, so he wrote a letter to Swami. And many months go by, and we've somewhat forgotten it. And then it's time for the school graduation. And one of the 6th graders who was friendly to him said to him, will you miss me? And the son said, yes. And he said, then have this gold chain. And so he put it over him. So Swami gives us messages for the future. So there are things in which we have interactions with him that we don't really understand. Or we don't understand how many levels. We understand a level or two, but we don't understand all of the levels, all of the meanings of the interactions that we've had with Swami. All of the, you know, if it's just he said, who are you? Or, you know, what is your name? Boom, that's everything. So a lot of people have had interactions with Swami about, he asked one time, what is your name? And so I told him, and he looked kind of sort of dubious, like, what a strange answer. And some people have had, when he asks a question like that, would say things like, I come from you, or, you know, I'm God like you, or something like that. And he usually seemed kind of pleased. You know, he usually pleased, but then sometimes, you know, he'd look like, you know, are you, you know, who do you think you're kidding here? You know, if we were sort of trying to fake it, or trying to sort of get one by, you know. Those kind of interactions with Swami happen all the time. So let's see, so where should we go here? I like to, just like that Dobie story, where he's bringing us down hard, someone gave a sort of a shorter version of that which is, first he hooks you, then he cooks you. So it's the same kind of deal. Once we become part of Swami, you know, that's very slowly he sort of pulls us to him. Sometimes it can be lightning fast. You know, you're minding your own business. You know, you're in Western Canada or whatever, and you're doing your profession. Suddenly, someone appears. He miraculously appears. Says, tells you a few things. Suddenly, you're flying across the world to see this God in human form, and or other times it could be very slow, or just like you have this sort of like inner flutter. What is it about this person? And sometimes when we talk to people, people who aren't sort of officially devotees, but there's something about Swami. They have some sort of feeling, some sort of little, they don't have a box in their mind that he quite fits in, but there's something about him. So we see the devotees, and then that's just the tip of the iceberg. There are all of those people that have some kind of mini relationship, or maybe major relationship that we have no idea of. So he has all of those relationships. So we were thinking, we know we can see him interacting with 1,000 people, but what about all of the billions and quadrillions of living beings and the cells and everything like that? We don't see that, of course. That's beyond our purview. What we see is just like a little spectrum of the electromagnetic field. I was saying, we're in the middle of this illusion. We think this is a solid object. We think we're solid objects. We think this is real, but really it's just sort of a patina of electricity. This is, science will confirm, this is protons and electrons, but really most of it's empty space. So what is it? It's a perception. It's our senses perceiving this pile of atoms and this empty space, and it has a certain valence for us. This is the meaning of Maya. We measure this way. This is solid, but really it's God. Really it's God. It's just another aspect of God, and we're so unconscious that we're not aware of what's happening around us. And I'd like to say this other way of looking at the larger macro picture from science. From that point of view, we're all together, we're all on this spinning ball of Earth, and it's all spinning together. And it's spinning roughly about 1,000 miles an hour. And what is that in kilometers? You do kilometers here? Yeah, so maybe 1,500 kilometers an hour, something like that. And with that ball is then whirling around the sun, perhaps 100,000 miles an hour. And then the whole galaxy is turning almost 1,000,000 miles an hour. We don't feel a thing. Totally oblivious. We go 60 miles an hour in a car, we think, oh my God, this is so dangerous. Meanwhile, we're going all of this speed. Someone had a bumper sticker. It used to be for a while in the energy crisis, they had a government slogan that said, 55 miles an hour. It's not just a good idea, it's the law. So it was the idea to get people to slow down. So my friend, who's very scientifically oriented and knew the speed of light, so on his bumper sticker it said, 186,000 miles a second. It's not just a good idea, it's the law. So this world is filled with light, happening at ways that we can't even begin to fathom. And this is a blessing from God that He's allowed us in the midst of all of these massive things happening, both internally and externally. We're allowed a little mini drama, and it's a mini drama of hide and seek. Am I really this small identity? Am I chafing against because, his identity doesn't quite match with mine, and this is somehow an offense to me, or this person's really nice to me, and we feel heart to heart, and therefore we're friends, as opposed to we're just distant, and it's like a little mini drama that, obviously from a Swami point of view, has a great deal of absurdity to it. Really, once we've come out of our shell, this whole world belongs to us. I was sharing that joke, I think a beautiful joke. A fellow said, I have the world's largest seashell collection. It's so large, I have to keep it strewn on beaches all over the world. In other words, it all belongs to us. Someone else once told me he's driving down the road, and he realized they built this road for us. You know, usually we think of, okay, this is a piece of asphalt, and then we jump over the asphalt, and we go to the next, and stuff like that. This was all given to us. This was all a gift from God. Different people built it, different people took part in it, some volunteered, some were paid a lot of money for it, but it was all a gift from God. So for instance, we look at the Nilayam here. This is a gift from God. Well, it's a little easier to see because Swami's photo is here everywhere. But even that, we take for granted. You know, in the US, if they saw a Nilayam like that, they'd say, oh, this is so spectacular. You know, we don't have anything like that. Look at this. The devotees built this. Must have been Swami's grace. Must have been special. They must have been particularly blessed by God. Last time I had the good fortune to be here in Trinidad in January of 12. And after I left, they gave me that book by Mr. Dubai, and it was called Darshan. It was about all of the experiences that the people in Trinidad had. And it sort of warmed my heart, because when I left, it was like extending my Trinidad trip for a couple of weeks. I'd read a chapter or two, and I felt very good about it. So Swami has given us so much, but we take so much for granted. It's one of the mayas that comes in with us. He gives us, and then we tend to forget. We tend to forget, getting and forgetting, as Swami would say. And I also like to tell the story about the translator. I was in an interview with a number of young adults, and some people had been up to some mischief. And they left, but Swami was sort of using that moment. And he's speaking in Telugu, and he has a translator. And you know how Swami starts kind of softly, and then there's sort of a rising line when he gives a speech, and then it moves its way up to a kind of crescendo, and then it sort of comes down again a little bit, and it's very involving. And so he's starting, and he said, you know, this happened, and this was not good, and that everyone should, you know, be aware and never do something like this again. And then he's going further and further, and the crescendoing, and then he suddenly switches. You know, the translator's getting more and more involved in what Swami's saying, and so the translator's kind of reflecting what, you know, Swami's mood, and you know how Krishna says, oh, this is a crow, and Arjuna says, yes, it's a crow, and he says, no, it's really an eagle. Arjuna says, yes, it's definitely an eagle. And the translator was kind of getting into it that way. And finally, it reaches a crescendo, and Swami switches to English. He says, when you act like this, what can I do? And the translator says, yes, what can he do? So Swami's reality is so all-encompassing that we get engrossed in it. And I also would like to tell the story about the Italian grandfather. And this is one of my favorites in an interview. And Swami's talking to this old man and two young boys, maybe 18, 20 or whatever. And it looked like the young boys had been up to some mischief. And Swami is sort of talking, he starts talking about drugs. And he's going on about drugs are bad and things like that. Obviously, it's just sort of using it as a medium for which to talk to them and sort of lay seeds for the future. Meanwhile, the old man is sitting right next to Swami. Swami's sort of patting him every once in a while. The old man looks so almost transparent. He's so devoted to Swami. He's so totally absorbed in Swami, just looking, and he's taking this moment to be so physically so close to Swami. And he's just, you know, you can see his sort of consciousness rise, and, you know, the world's kind of falling away. And Swami's going on and about looking so sweetly at him, and then he's looking at the boys and talking about drugs and looking sweetly at this fellow, and back and forth. And everyone's watching and just being absorbed in the drama. And finally, so Swami says, drugs bad, drugs bad, drugs bad. And he looks at this old man so close, and he says so sweetly to him, "Do you take drugs?" And the old man says, "Oh yes, Swami." Because whatever it was, the way Swami had presented it was so sweet, it must have been a gift from God. He said, "Oh yes, Swami." And then Swami, in his playful way, where he plays out the drama, he suddenly looks with total shock and horror, like even my oldest devotees are totally corrupt. It's like, the fellow catches himself. No. But just some of the, even when we're feeling just bliss with Swami, we feel so close, and yet he'll play with us. He'll undercut our own identity. And again, forgive me for those that have had to hear my stories too many times, but I like this one, in which I'm sitting in a crowd about where Guyana is sitting now, and Swami's talking up front, and so I have a very good seat. And he's just speaking in Telugu, there's no translator. And so at the time I was very much into japa, I suppose still a little, and I had a big kurta on, and I had tucked under the kurta, I had a little japa mala. And so I'm saying japa, and I'm looking at Swami, and I'm just totally absorbed and looking at Swami. I'm not distracted by anything. I'm feeling very righteous. Oh, what a good devotee I am. And I'm just in sort of that same thinking blissful place, and I'm happy, and I'm looking at Swami, and you know how he does the mixture. He's looking at one person and then the next. Suddenly he looks at me, and he says, in Telugu, da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. Obviously, I missed the translation completely. And I turned to the fellow next to me. I asked him, what did he say? He said, "You can do japa all your life. It will come to nothing unless you inquire who you are." So so he's doing a number of things at once. He's sort of recognizing my efforts, and at the same time he's undercutting that little mini identity I had. Oh, I'm good, And I'm sort of thinking this, oh, I'm good. And then he sort of undercuts that. And at the same time, he's leaving me a message for the future, and at the same time he's giving messages to people there, and people all over the world, and to history. So he does so many things at once. So many things at once. Little things, he said. Sometimes we take things, sometimes as an insult to ourselves. Sometimes we bump into someone. It's like, why did they do that? What's the meaning? Or sometimes emotionally we bump into, or sometimes plans. We have a plan, someone else has a plan. Our plan doesn't quite work. Why did they do that? Why aren't they cooperating? Why aren't this? And so I like this joke. This man's driving down south. He's driving around a big curve in the road. Suddenly, weaving on the other side, this lady comes, and she almost hits him, and she's shouting at him. She's shouting, "Pig! Pig!" And the guy gets really angry. Here this lady is weaving around, I'm driving right, and she's calling me a pig. I mean, what kind of deal is that? That really makes me mad. As he's thinking this, as he's coming around the curve, and he slams into a 300-pound pig. Life is like that. Swami will give us little warnings, but sometimes he won't tell you exactly what it is he's referring to. But life is like that. We take things as an insult that might be useful to take as, indicators, warnings. So something negative happens to us. We can sort of like, how come, why? This makes me mad. Or we can take of it, what's useful in this is a lesson. Maybe there's a lesson here. Maybe there's something I can learn. So it usually doesn't happen quite like that. But we should look at life that way. Sometimes people take life as an insult. Someone dies, and they think, oh, God must hate me. Or God didn't do right by me. Or, maybe there is no God. So we all feel the sting of this. But really, maybe there's a lesson. Maybe there's a lesson. Buddha says there's a lesson in there. Swami says there's a lesson in there. This world is just temporary. He says this life is a bridge. You know, you don't make a house on the bridge. You use the bridge to get to the other side. Why did the devotee cross the bridge? To get to the other side. So, okay. Maybe I should take a break for a moment. See if, sometimes I've been speaking to officers, and sometimes I would ask them if they had any questions, but also with the devotees. If they have any questions, I can try and answer from an organizational point of view, because I've had a number of decades of experience and seen a variety of different organizations, or just as a fellow devotee. You know, in other words, I've had a chance to, you know, like we're all like the blind men, we see one part of the elephant, and it's sometimes useful to hear what the other person has to say about what part of the elephant they've seen. And anyway, if anyone has any questions at all, feel free, or if there's anything you want to ask me about my experiences, feel free with that. Don't need to put anyone on the spot, but sometimes I ask this just because I sort of come to a momentary lull, and I'm not sure where I'm going next, so I'm sort of fishing around to see what people have on their minds. Anyone? Okay, Sairam, we'll continue then. Yes, sir. Yeah, well, I read about Swami in 1969. Yes, yes. I just sent a PDF file of that article to Fi's, and Fi's right there. And if anyone wants a copy of it, I'm sure he'd be happy to email on a copy. So just give me your email address. But 1969, I was a senior in college in New York City, and I had come in contact with yogis. I guess when I was a senior in high school, I read the Gita and the autobiography of a yogi, and then just by my sophomore year, this is late 60s, Swamis from India were first starting to come to New York, and I would see a few of them. But most of them, the Indian accent was so intense that it was very hard to understand. So I remember seeing someone from the Divine Life Society had come to New York, and big crowds of people had come to see this exotic yogi. You know, we've been hearing about yogis for years, but at last someone had come. So there was like a general file of people coming in, having his darshan and going out, because they wanted to see what he looked like, and he looked great. You know, he looked like a great yogi. But no one could understand a thing he said, so they would sort of stay for about 5 minutes, and so it was a general file. But anyway, I had decided that what was a career path for me, and for some reason I couldn't come up with something that was compelling. I was interested in psychology, but at the time, psychology was sort of a barren field. It really left no place for spirit. As a matter of fact, it was sort of had an antipathy towards religion. You know, the famous Freud statement that religion is the opiate of the masses. So they were sort of like very reductionistic, you know, like we're going to run this rat through a maze and this is going to tell us something. So I had a hard time relating to it, and so what am I going to do? And I read all of the Tibetan books and this and that. Said, I'm going to become a yogi. That seems like a worthy career path. This is what I'll do with my life. And I'll go to India for some years, and I'll find a guru, and I'll, you know, whatever. I often was joking that, you know, the Western version then was, there was totally enamored of meditation. If you did so many hours of meditation, divided by how severe your karma was, you would then get E for enlightenment. So E for enlightenment equals M for meditation divided by K for karma. They're very sort of reductionistic, and Swami wasn't quite, later, obviously not into that. He's sort of into undercutting. Because with meditation, if you do a lot of it, you have this identity. I'm this great meditator. I have this power to concentrate, and people around notice me. And that can get you into a lot of trouble. Swami in his grace has mostly undercut that. I used to love the humor of it. In the old days in Party, when for Omkar, You'd be in there, it'd be before 5 a.m. They'd pack you in so tight, you know, you could barely breathe, and you know, you couldn't touch the person next to you, yet at the same time you couldn't not touch the person next to you. So you're sort of all packed in like fish. And naturally in that group, someone would sniffle, or God forbid, they would cough. So the fellow behind had this flashlight, you know, so he was trying to, sort of a good example of someone trying to do his duty. No doubt Swami had told him, you're in charge here during Omkar, there should be perfect silence. So the fellow said, okay, there should be perfect silence. So someone sniffles, he'd be flashing his flashlight, shh, shh, no, there has to be perfect silence. So the whole Omkar, beforehand it would be all flashing and chastising and stuff like that. It's like this other bumper sticker, I don't know if you have these bumpers, the humorous bumper stickers here, it says, you know, if you love quiet, you know, honk if you love quiet, if you love peace and quiet. We sort of, sometimes we get in the way, we get in our own way. So, let's see, where was I going with that? About meditation. So, Swami would undercut that meditation. So we're going back to, I had this desire to live this yogic life. So, November 1969, I was also very enamored of media. And Swami later said, he looked at me once and he sort of turned, you know, he says, media in the West, completely bad. And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, Swami, completely? I didn't say it, but I thought in my mind, completely? I mean, gee, that's kind of sweeping statement, Swami. Completely? And he looked at me and he turned and says, yes, completely. So he's answering my thought, you know, back and forth. But obviously media can be used by the Lord. So November ~69, there's a beautiful article about Swami. And I recently, do any of you get the send-outs from this fellow Mumbai Srinivasan? Any of you? Yeah, okay, some. But I saw that a couple days ago he was writing about this reporter from Newsweek who came to see Swami in 1968, and the interchange the two of them had. And Swami, you know, apparently was a very hard-bitten kind of guy, but that Swami was very, very open-hearted with him, and you know, the fellow was quite sort of trying to, he couldn't relate. He was trying to figure out who this person was. That's probably the background to this article that finally comes out the next year. I'm sure they have like piles of back articles that when they, you know, they sort of pull them out every once in a while. So I saw this, and in the article it says, basically, well, Westerners may have difficulties believing in the miracle. There's no doubt that he has the ability to plant the seed of faith in people's hearts. So this is, I was quite taken with that. And you know how in Newsweek they also put under the photo caption. Newsweek used to be a very big deal in the US, and I believe internationally. And now they've stopped printing, they just have a digital version, but it was a very big deal for about 50 years. So underneath, how they do the photo caption, it said, "Worship me every Thursday." So it was very funny for a first interaction. But Swami then, in this dance, he made this elaborate dance in which the following week, I was at some religious conference and there's a mention of Satya Sai. And this was very unusual in 1969 in the US. There was pretty much no Indian community whatsoever. And there was very little understanding of Eastern religion. The following week, I'm at a party, but I'm not really interested. And I'm flipping through this throwaway magazine in New York called The Village Voice. And you're flipping through, and I noticed at the very bottom of the page, in the smallest letters, it says, "For more information about Satya Sai Baba, write to Dick Bach in Los Angeles." So I wrote to him. And by this time, it's just about Christmas time. And my father, I grew up in a small rural but university town. And there was a record store. It was probably smaller than the entire stage area there, so small. And they didn't get very many records from India or Asia or anything like that. And they might have gotten a few. My father knew that I had an interest in Indian spirituality. And so for the Christmas present, he gave me Satya Sai Baba Chants the Bhajans. So to me, those four things happening in a row was Swami's way of saying, come and see me. So did that answer the question? Yeah. So clearly around the world, how we found out about Swami is sort of usually some kind of Leela. There's usually some kind of thing happened that was out of the usual. You know, there was and a collection of how we came to Swami is one that could stem thousands and thousands of volumes and would all be very, very useful for future generations to understand or to try and understand the Swami. Okay, let's see, where are we here? Let's try again. Any questions? Any questions or any thoughts or anything that I should try and give my try to illuminate or anything else? Maybe I'll go for one or two other experiences. We've reached a stage here. We were like little children. You know, Swami took us and we were like little children. You know, you give them sweets and they love you. You stop giving them sweets, they run off and do something else. And Swami said, you know, was teasing one time. He wasn't visiting the ladies so much, but he was visiting the men's side. And the ladies were questioning him, said, why is that? He said, oh, with the men, if I ignore them at all, they get up and leave. They don't have the steadfastness that the ladies do. So we've reached a stage here where we're no longer children in the Satya Sai movement. Children have to see the parent there. Otherwise they run, you know, they run amok. We've come from that stage where we were just given sweets, one after another by Swami. We're sort of bound to Swami by the sweetness of the experiences. And then, after that, he gave us teachings, just as you send kids to school. And you have to know you can't jump up from your desk. No, you need to study this, you need to try this, you need to do your best over here. Come to that stage. Then finally, later, you say, okay, the parent gives less and less one-on-one time because, you know, you've hopefully inculcated the values or you've taken as much in as you're going to take in, and eventually you have to, you know, try your wings in the world, as it were. You need to step out a little bit. So in this, you might say that Swami's like, in psychology, they would call this a developmental mother. The mother first nurtures the child really close. It couldn't be closer. Then gradually, you know, says, okay, and child, you have some duties here. You try this, you try your best. Then later, okay, you have major responsibilities to the family. Then you are an independent adult. So in this, we're coming to that stage where we are adults as devotees. We're no longer children. When we become adults, we volunteer. We look out for the benefit of others. Not just our family, but as real full-fledged adults, we look out for the community. We look out for someone's hurt feelings someplace. We look out for a need over here, over there. We look out for trying to promote kinship. I remember one time I had a minister's certificate. And so I was to perform this, this wedding. And you could see all of the various generations there. There were the real young ones who were sort of like, oh yeah, I'm doing my thing, you know, no one's going to tell me what to do. Then there were the young, the 25, 30-year-old, 35, they're sort of like preening, like, look at my car, you know, look at, I've got this big job. And then you see the 45-year-olds, they're with the elders, and the elders are sort of like trying to cope and, you know, trying to walk and trying to get to this place. But you can see the 45-year-olds were trying to hold the whole thing together. You know, like keep this group here and keep this group here, keep anyone from wandering off too much. Well, we're a little bit like in that stage now. What can we do to bring the various pieces together? You know, so this is a game, like connect the dots. Swami has given us everything. He's given us buildings, he's given us ashrams, he's given us hospitals. Mr. Chandru was telling me they just built a full super specialty hospital in Raipur. What? Raipur. So things are happening that we don't even see. But that's just on the external level. So to grow into our adulthood as devotees, to really grow into being a devotee, means to volunteer, to look out for, to think, what would Swami want? What would Swami want? So this is part of our development as devotees. This is part of our journey with Swami. And this journey is far from over. Far from over. Beyond this body. You know, a few may get the big E, the big enlightenment or whatever, and I'd emerge, whatever, I don't know. But there's the Premasai coming. This drama goes on for on and on and on. And we may think, oh, Swami doesn't seem so visible to me. The big Maya. This drama continues. So, if I may, I'd like to end with these quotes from the Gita, which have a big meaning to me and I think are relevant to what I just said. It's, Krishna says, thickly veiled by my divine Maya, I am not revealed to all. This deluded world knows me not as the unborn and eternal. Then he says, O Arjuna, I know the beings of the past, present, and future. That's all of us. We're the beings of the past, present, and future. We've got this particular gown on, but this is us. I know these beings. I know the beings of the past, present, and future, but no one knows me, the divine mystery, our great mysterious friend. And then, from the 9 gems, mind-boggling and awe-inspiring are Baba's miracles. Mind-elevating and mind-eliminating and self-illuminating are Baba's universal teachings. This is where we came in. He's given us more teachings than we can chew, than we can swallow, than we can pass on to other people. Take what you can, see what works for you, see what's relevant for you. And this should lead us to where we are, at least momentarily, with their minds wholly fixed on me, with their lives totally dedicated to me, mutually enlightening one another, and ever speaking of me. They feel contented and delighted indeed. And that's our situation. That's our situation. The rest of the world is kind of sawdust. After you've tasted it a while, no, it doesn't really do it. Only one thing that we found, we're so lucky that the Swami is incarnated for us. And our taste for him grows and grows and grows and grows. Let's take his hand, let's hold it, let's become friends with this divine. We've been very, very lucky, very, very fortunate. I'm very happy to be here, very happy to be with you all, very happy to be in this satsang. I hope that Swami blesses each and every one of you fully, completely, that you get everything you want from Swami, and that you also get what Swami wants for you. You know, it says, I give what you want, so you'll want what I have to give. So I don't know much more that I can possibly say, and other than Jai Sai Ram.